With Frieren episode 20, it's all about pushing characters' morals and the idea of what is necessary and unnecessary killing. When you look at episode 19, I think characters, especially like Denken, who appeared a lot more cold and ruthless in the face of, well, a bunch of dead adventurers from this exam being strung up in trees because of these monsters, that's just how it is. It's nothing really to bat an eye at. It seemed very cold and just, I guess, made sense. If you can't deal with this, yeah, you're not cut out to be a first-class mage, but that's pretty ruthless. In this episode, he's actually a lot more compassionate, and the idea of unnecessary versus necessary killing really comes to fruition when he goes up against Frieren's party, because the person he's working with, he's pretty much F them kids. He's like, I'm gonna kill one of them because as long as one member's dead, the party can't succeed. So it's not like they wanted to just slaughter everyone just for the fun of it, just more so, we can't make any mistakes, let's just go kill them. And Denken's pretty much standing there like, bro, chill, we can put them to sleep, they're just kids. Like, there's an idea of what's necessary and there's an idea of what's unnecessary. You're clearly being unnecessary, I'm the old wise man, listen to grandpa. And honestly, I think Frieren could probably respect him just given her own circumstances. But when you have the idea of an all-granting wish, if you become the best of the best in this world, pretty much the goddess equivalent in their world will grant you any spell you desire. And that already gets your mind racing on what type of possibilities of what you could request for magic. You could do anything from bringing back the dead as they were to ending the world, seemingly. Like, probably the sky's your limit. But the idea of what is necessary versus unnecessary is really interesting, because when you have three really interesting characters this week, I think, who stole the spotlight. You have, of course, Denken, who pretty much went from, it doesn't matter if people die in this exam like in last week, that is what it is, to actually trying to protect innocent kids because they didn't deserve to die for a situation that they could easily be put to sleep. You then have Ubel, who pretty much, wanted to fight to the death this whole time, and honestly, had her boy allowed her to, one of them would have ended up dying. And I thought I really understood what to expect from him as a character because, he just had a psycho energy to him, and there's a couple of moments throughout this episode where I really wasn't sure what to feel about him. But by the end, he's definitely the type of character who doesn't go out of his way to enjoy killing. He just grew up in an environment that has made him pretty desensitized to a lot of it, so if he has to do it, he will. But he doesn't go out of his way to just be a psychopath. And I think the idea of allowing this episode to really show you why mages are so broken in a way. Like, the idea of chasing after all true power to such a degree, and the idea that the thing that determines their worth as a mage really doesn't value their lives, because if you're not able to complete this, it means you're not fit out to be a mage. Why would we want you to live? Like, why would we try to protect you? It's completely twisted, but Frieren episode 20 really pushing the boundaries and showing why certain characters are maybe a little more cold on paper, but still have that moral compass was something I wasn't expecting. I have a full live reaction episode 20 Frieren over on my Patreon, so if you would like to see my full and good thoughts, they're over there if you're interested. Honestly, it's hard to even pick a favorite moment in this episode, because whether it was Fern coming in and absolutely lying to our boy because he's like, listen, obviously, if someone ends up dead, the game's over, right? Like, you can't continue the test. You need both the bird and all of your original party members. So the idea that pretty much Fern pops up saying, like, yeah, I killed her, I didn't believe it, but then I was like, well, maybe she did, not because she's, like, wanting to kill, but when the idea of the episode is literally called necessary killing, that's what this episode's called. If she gave her, like, a counterattack and just, like, was continuing to push her shit in, maybe it is. No, she just did a bullshit lie. And honestly, it was good because you couldn't tell that she was lying. Like, she was stone cold face, and honestly, it worked out. And it was really interesting because throughout that fight, I wasn't really sure if he was struggling or if he was just waiting for an opportunity. And clearly, he was waiting for an opportunity because even though he was getting attacked, she has like a 5-meter range, give or take, for these attacks that you can't even see, but clearly they cut like a biatch. Like, they were hurting for sure. And it was really cool to see how once he pretty much, because obviously he wants the bird, right? So once he like captures her, says, hey, give me the bird sort of a thing, she's trying to figure out the limitations. Seems his limitation for this really powerful spell is he just needs to keep the whole body in view, so it wouldn't really work in group settings and things like that, but at the end of the day, he did end up succeeding, and if it wasn't for Fern, he would have stole that bird. He got very lucky though, like when he was literally carrying both of his teammates after their utter defeats, he stumbles upon a bird and was able to catch him. And I love the idea that luck isn't seen as something that's like, oh, you only succeed because you're lucky. Like, luck is considered a skill. Like, the dude who was like observing this whole thing is pretty much like, luck is absolutely something that you should value. but there's a couple of characters who might succeed in this who aren't going to do so through luck. He very much is supporting his boy, who he assumes is good, he is going to win because, you know, he's the old wise man. He has everything built about him to be the best of the best, but he's severely underestimating our girl. Now, it is possible for Frieren's group to lose, not because of Frieren being outmatched or outclassed, but they did a good job at separating the two, so his partner's going up against the two girls we're working with, and Frieren's obviously doing her thing. I love how unfazed Frieren was, though. Like, when the bird gets stolen, she's just kind of like, huh, that's interesting. That must be this spell. Like, she's just so interested in magic that she's not even freaking out. And I think it's kind of refreshing to have a main character who's so unenthused, not in the way that they're boring, but just more so like the things that would normally freak out in MC are just like, yeah, I'll figure it out. It's like, I'm just kind of interested in the situation at hand. And honestly, I think these two are going to have a very interesting fight, hopefully next week. I mean, I thought we were going to build into it this week, but instead they actually gave us some more interesting ones, especially with two characters who both seemed kind of psychotic, like they were hungry and wanting to hurt, but turned out to have a more interesting moral compass than we were looking after. Especially when it comes to Ubel, who pretty much is like, well, you know, she wanted to fight to the death. Like, she was thirsting for that in her internal thoughts. And honestly, I'm not even sure if she's really happy that Fern was there. Honestly, I think she was like, you know what, I want to see one of us die, and then she didn't get to. So it's going to be interesting to see how I think her and Fern's relationship's going to develop, because they're very different in terms of wavelengths. Like, if she learns that she didn't actually kill that person, and where she clearly would have probably in that moment, I don't know. But either way, I think this is probably one of the most like interesting episodes to think about in terms of the long-term implications for mages. There's already very few mages in the world left to this degree, and the idea that there's a test that determines your worth that so easily kills you and disregards your value, because if you're not this good, a bunch of birds killing you and throwing you into a tree and making you a live booby trap, that's just to be expected. You're not fit to be the mage, there's no rescue parties. And the idea that, you know, they encourage you to kill other teammates. They literally put it in that the only way to pass is all three teammates and the bird. Meaning that any scumbag could join in on this, and as twisted as their moral compass is, it doesn't matter. They would be rewarded if they got the bird and they kept their team party alive, right? So it's like, it's very interesting, and I think when you jump into an episode called Necessary Killing, you knew you were getting into some interesting territory. I thought maybe it was just going to be about our boy's backstory, because he talks about the army he's in and how he used to go up against people who would, like, literally armies that would send women and children. It's not like he got a thrill out of killing people like that, but there are definitely things will happen to you when you're forced to do situations like that, and obviously killing is something that he can do. It just doesn't seem like it's something he goes out of his way to do and enjoy. It's just like a much more interesting character. I think him, Denken, I mean all the characters really, but those were characters I thought I knew what to expect, and their moral compass is a lot more complex than I was giving credit to in previous episodes. I mean, as we all say, it's hard to pick a favorite Frieren episode when all of them have been 10 out of 10s, but this was definitely one of the most interesting for sure, and I'm loving this mage exam. Let me know what you thought though down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Snake Eater 7, Nathan Semichuk, Gorvak, and Zeshram, so I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.